everybody. Today, Hani is going to continue reading Wonka, inspired by Royal Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Chapter 4. Always read the small print. Willie walked back to the washhouse, his mind whirling as it always did. There was a new chocolate idea or two bouncing about in there, along with a pressing problem to solve. A big one. How to wow at the gallery's gourmet and convince them to let him sell his chocolate. For as long as he could remember, the dream of the gallery's gourmet had kept him going. No matter what sadness or gloom the world threw at him, he could conjure up one dream and live in for a while. And he could wander happily through the last thing he and his mother had imagined together. He wasn't going to let that to be replaced with his new memory of heroes who turned out to be not be heroes at all. There was always a key to turn things around. He was confident his imagination would conjure up something perfect. It had never let him down yet. Bleacher was closing the washhouse blinds when he arrived, and Mrs. Corbett was inside, sitting in the shadows, sipping her stinky warm water. "Evening, Mr. Wonka," she said. "How's it go?" Billy sighed. "Not quite as well as I hoped." "Oh dear," she said, and then she rose eagerly to her feet. "Well, I'm afraid we do have to settle up now." "Thankfully the room's taken care of," Billy said. "I believe we said a sovereign." He pulled a single sovereign from his pocket and placed it on the counter. Mrs. Grubbett's eye twitched excitedly. "For the room, yes, but you have incurred one or two extras during the course of your residency with us." "I have," Willie said, his nose wrinkling as it desperately searched his mind for what those extras might be. Mrs. Corbett opened her ledger and started totting up the bill. "Yes, you have. There was that glass of warm water you had when you arrived. As if I remember rightly, you warmed your cogs by the fire." "He did indeed, Mrs. Corbett," Bleacher growled. Willie looked nervously at the exit as Bleacher bolted the door. "Cockle warming is extra. See," Mrs. Corbett said. "Use the stairs to get to his room and all," Bleacher added. "Oh, well then, you've got your stair charge," Mrs. Corbett said as she scribbled furiously in her ledger. "And that's per step, I'm afraid, up and down. Now tell me, Mr. Wonka, do you happen to use the minibar?" Willie raised an eyebrow. "There's a minibar of soap," Bleacher clarified. "By the sink," Mrs. Corbett added helpfully. Billy missed. "I might have briefly." "See, even Bleacher knows you never touched that minibar, and he was raised in a ditch," Mrs. Corbett said. "Add in your mattress hire, lining list, pillow penalty, and you're looking at 10,000 silver gains." I don't think you can do that," Willie said nervously, thumping his cane. Mrs. Corbett flashed him a rotten smile, all in the small print diary. "But I don't have 10,000 sovereigns," Billy said. "I only have one." Bleacher grabbed Willie by the collar and hissed. "Then we have a problem, Mr. Wonka. We'll need to work it off in the washhouse at a sovereign a day," Mrs. Corbett said brightly. "But 10,000 sovereigns, that's 27 years, Mrs. Corbett said. 4 months. Bleacher grunted. Mrs. Corbett bared her teeth. "And 16 days. Then, before Willie could protest, Bleacher hoisted Willie into the air and hurled him down to the laundry chute. "Ah!" he screamed as he slid down the bowls of the washhouse and landed on a thump on the basket. He was squashed among laundry sacks, cursing himself for not spotting the signs sooner. "I should listen to you, that young girl," Willie groaned. "What was her name?" "Noodle," came a reply, and much to Willie's surprise he peeked out of the car to see an old gentleman with a smart tweed suit standing here. He looked out of place among the mangles and hanging switch and bubbling vats, churning vast lumps of laundry, like someone had plucked him with office and accidentally dropped him there. "You must be Mr. Wonka," he said as he pushed up the glasses, then clasped his hands neatly. "I'm Abacus Crunch, chartered accountant. At least I was. Now a tall and smiling woman wearing soft denim overalls came over and thrust out a hand to him from the laundry basket. "Abacus runs the place," she said as Willie struggled his way out. "Now you'd best go do as he says, or you'll answer to me. Pepper Benz, plumber by trade." "Accountant, plumber, accountant, plumber," Willie mumbled, wiping his brow. The air was thick and soft, and the whole place was horribly hot. "And I'm Larry Chucklesworth," came a voice. A man stepped out of behind a colossal stack of folded towels. He had a curly wig and a big, bold bust shoes. He spun his bow tie and grinning. "I'm a clown, in case the shoes don't make it obvious enough. Professional clown." "And there's Lori Bell," Pepper said, nudging a shy-looking woman forward. Her hair was almost entirely covering her face, like she was trying to hide. "She was a switchboard operator in her day, weren't you?" The woman said nothing, only waved shyly in Willie's direction. "She don't talk much," Pepper said. "So they got you old too, did they?" Willie said glumly. Abacus bowed his head. "I'm afraid so. Each of us found themselves in need of a cheap place to stay, and neglected to read the small print." Willie took up around the room, running his hands across the walls, knocking and banging and pulling at pipes. "There must be a way out of here." "You don't think we've tried?" Pepper said. "There are bars on the windows, the dogs on the door. And even if you could get out, the contract is watertight," Abacus said. "Like a joke flower," Larry laughed, squeezing some water in his own face. "Sorry, that was a clown joke." Much to the surprise of the others, Willie sputtered with laughter. "Fantastic," he said, inspecting the little plastic contraption. "You think it's just a flower, but it's something different entirely. Oh, Larry, I think we'll get on this very well." Larry stared blankly to him, as a positive reaction was the very last thing he expected. "I do love ingenious inventions," Willie said, "especially ones that make persons smile." "If you're not here at a roll call," Pepper said, bringing the conversation back to their imprisonment, "Mrs. Scrubbit will call the police, and she'll charge you 1,000 for the convenience." She sank down on the pile of laundry and put her hat on her head. All of a sudden, Tiddles barked from beyond the door, making them all jump with fright. "All right, everyone, back to work," Abacus said. "Come on, Mr. Wonka, we'll show you the ropes. You're in the room over there, on thuds." And so everyone returned to their workstations, and Abacus and Willie went to the sub's room. It was a dingy little room, dominated by two enormous copper vats. "Your job is to stir, Mr. Wonka," Abacus said. Willie reluctantly picked up a huge paddle and started stirring the steaming vat. "I already think we've had enough of this," he said quietly, but the workers were too busy scrubbing. Time passed slowly down the washhouse, and though he had only been there for a few hours, it already felt like days. The workers constantly chatting scrub, scrub didn't help matters either. Willie found himself rapidly glancing at the clock, wondering when the nightmare would end. The smell of soap was sicky sweet, and the wet air made me feel itchy. Finally, after that felt like an eternity, the door was unbolted, the bleacher marched in with the clipboard. Bell, Bennett, Crunch, Chucklesworth, Wonka, he growled, taking their names off the list before ordering them upstairs to sleep. I'll be sure not to use the minibar this time, Will said. Lesson learned. Oh, I wouldn't worry about that, Mr. Wonka, because you won't be getting any more soup, Fletcher said before grabbing Willie by the scruff of the collar and throwing him to the room. Night out in 30 minutes, he roared as he slammed the door shut. A terrifying man, but an Olympic throw on him that I can only respect, Willie said with a shake of his head. He jumped to his feet and dusted himself off, taking his new home. The room was very different from the one he had stayed in on the top floor. There was no roaring fire, no treat in the pillow. It was bare, with only a rickety old bed, a small desk, a small broken window. A cold air blasted through the cracks of the glass, making an irritating whistle sound, as Willie lay down on the bed to rest his aching bones. He stared up at the dark ceiling, his stomach grumbling with hunger and his hands stinging from the soup. He was trapped. He thought he could hear little footsteps, impossibly tiny ones, like the noise a bird would make if it perched to some light snow first. Tip-tap, tip-tap. It's you again, isn't it? Willie whispered into the darkness, but his footsteps quickened and disappeared. Willie was finally drifting off to sleep when he heard a loud knock at the door. "Room service!" came Noodle's voice as the door creaked open. She placed a bucket of slops in the door. "Told you to read the small print, didn't I?" I know, Willie said. "It's just, well, I'll be honest, I can't." "Can't what?" Noodle asked. "I can't read," Willie clarified. "No, you're kidding me," she gasped. Yes, Willie said. "Your chocolate can make people fly, and you can't read?" Willie cried. "Well," he said, somewhat defensively, "we've been busy about my plan to share Willie chocolate into the world." "All right," Noodle said. "For everything else, I'll rely on the kindness of strangers." Noodle laughed a hollow laugh. "And look where that got you, the stuffed quarters. At least you've got a bed." Then, as if the bed had heard and wanted to make this even more green for Willy Wonka, the whole thing collapsed underneath him. He hit the ground with a crunch. "I'm okay," he squeaked. "You had a bed," Noodle went on. "A desk and a wash basin. It's also your toilet, by the way. Water comes in two temperatures, cold and colder." Willie got up and walked over to the basin. When he turned them on, the dribble of water came out each, and indeed cold and colder. "How much do you owe them?" Noodle asked. 10,000. "Count yourself lucky," Noodle said. "I owe 30. "What?" Willie said, with his eyes widening with relief. "How do you own them money? I thought you found them under the laundry chute." "Oh, they did," Noodle said. "Took me out of the goodness of their hearts and charged me for their privilege. You wouldn't have thought a 1-year-old could sign a contract, but apparently a thumbprint was legally blinding." "I'm sorry, Noodle," Willie said sadly. "If only you didn't have thumbs, or better yet, if only you'd been put down a nicer laundry chute." "It's not so bad," Noodle said. "If I keep my nose clean, I'll be out of here by the time I'm 82. Willie shook his head. "What a pair of monsters. That's life," Noodle said, "cruel and horrible. And folks always choose greed over good deed. It's the way of the world." She tipped the slops into a bowl. "Enjoy your slops." "Come on now," Noodle, Willie said. "You're certainly not going to eating any of that." He went to the other side of the room and fetched his case. "What are you doing?" Without taking his eyes off her, he dropped the case on the desk, making burst open. It coruscated like a magic toolbox, expanding the growing pipes on one side and pots on the other. Up popped an array of flaxen beakers, and there was a miniature gas stove and a self-stirring wooden spoon. "Seriously," Noodle said, "what is that? What are you doing?" "I'm making a chocolate, of course," he said as he began rifling the strange ingredient. "Why do you like it? Dark white? Nutty? Totally bonkers?" Noodle shocked. "I don't know. I never had any chocolate." Willie froze. "What?" Noodle said. Never? Willie said in disbelief. Not even a nibble? No, Willie said. That's horrible, Willie said. Let's fix that immediately. Noodle inched closer. I'd love to try one of that makes you fly. I'm afraid rest of my hover fly stock isn't ready yet, Willie said. Oh, but I do have one for those other ingredients you might like. He cracked his knuckles and began uncorking the jars and tipping things into a pot. Silver linings will do nicely. Made of condensed thunderclouds and liquid sunlight. Makes you the faint ray of hope beyond the shadow of despair. That's what we both need, wouldn't you say? Noodle watched on, completely enthralled. Why do you always want to make chocolate? Always wanted to eat it, Billy said, shaking his ingredients into the pot with the stove. Back when I was your age, my mama was the cook. We didn't have much money, but each week she brought one cocoa bean. By the time my birthday came around, there was enough to make an entire bar of chocolate. But it wasn't just any chocolate. It was the best. She knew a secret no other chocolatier knew, not even Slugworth. It was a secret that made her chocolate the best in the world. Noodle leaned in closer, her eyes wide. What was the secret? She asked. I never got a chance to ask her, Willie said sadly. What happened to her? Noodle whispered, Willie's eyes glistening with tears. She died, she said in a whisper. Very suddenly, there was no one to look after me, so I boarded a ship. And after years traveling the world, here I am. Noodle put a hand on his shoulder. What was she like? Magical, he said. She's the reason I'm here, in a way. Well, yes, Noodle said. That's how it works. Willie gestured around him. No, here, making chocolate. What do you mean? She dreamed of coming here and selling chocolate together. We've held on that dream because, well, my mom once promised that I shared chocolate with the world. She'd be right there beside me. And I know it sounds silly, but I've always hoped somehow she'll keep that promise. She might even tell me her secret. The case pinched, and Willie leaped from foot to foot excitedly. They're ready, he said, reaching into the pot. Noodle watched eagerly as he pulled out a perfectly formed chocolate. He shook it in the air to cool it a little. Here, soaring over Noodle. Try! Noodle caught it and crangled it gently in her hands. It was a white chocolate, shaped like a cloud with a beautiful glistening bolt of lightning running through it. She lifted it to her lips and nibbled a small bite, then stopped. Willie leaned closer, gazing hopefully at her. Well, she said, I wish you hadn't done that. Why not? Willie said urgently. Why don't you like it? I really thought you would like it. No, I like it, Noodle said. It's just... Willie leaned closer. What? Now each day I don't have chocolate will be a little harder. Oh, Willie said, and he breathed a sigh of relief. That Noodle exactly how you should feel after eating chocolate. He paused, an idea forming. How would you like to have all the chocolate you can eat every day for the rest of your life? And a lifetime supply, Willie said, sounding skeptical. A lifetime supply, Willie confirmed. Noodle raised a suspicious eyebrow. What do I have to do? Not much, Willie said. Just let me out of here. Noodle laughed. Don't be ridiculous. Shh, it's easy, Willie said. And then he began excitedly pacing the room. I'll get something to cover my shift, and you can smuggle me out of your laundry cart. Just for a few hours, mind. Nobody would even know I was gone. What's the point of that? Noodle said. To sell chocolate, of course, Willie said. You'll split the profits to pay off Mrs. Scrubbin in no time. That's a nice idea, Willie. It's a great idea, he corrected her. Noodle's face grew serious, but it'll never work. Of course it will, Willie said dismissively. Now eat the rest of your chocolate. She popped the rest in her mouth. You don't understand, she said as soon as she gulped it down. Mrs. Garvey's like a hawk. She keeps her birdie eye on everything that comes in out of the washhouse. Except, huh. What is it? Willie asked eagerly. No, it's nothing, Noodle said, shaking her head in surprise. Willie shrugged. Oh, okay. Ha, Willie said. Oh, that's the double ha, Willie cheered. That's not something. That's the silver lining. It works. It's giving you an idea. Okay, Noodle said, her eyes suddenly wide with excitement. So the only time she's ever dropped occurred when she was aristocrat came into the laundry. Had a castle he couldn't find his way to, or something that ended up here. He was only asking for directions, but she was all over him like a rash. It was disgusting. That's it, Noodle, Willie cried. All we have to do is find her or aristocrat and slip a while she's distracted. She popped a silver lining in her mouth. Yeah, but we're going to find an aristocrat, Noodle said. Huh? Willie said instantly. Noodle moved closer. Huh? Huh? Willie said again. A double huh? Willie cried with delight. Have you got a pencil and paper? Willie asked quickly, her heart starting the room as searched everyone. Because I've got a marvelous idea. Okay, it's all from today. See you tomorrow, and if you liked this video, please like and subscribe. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.